JF, what did he say? More than a few of you absolutely stunned to hear John F. Kennedy talking about tax cuts nearly half a century ago. Some of you not at all believing it. Elena emails, I think you doctored this tape to make it sound like JFK was for cutting taxes. I know for a fact he wasn't. Oh, really, Elena? Do tell. But you've got company. Tim, the AOL, writes pretty much the same. You edited this. You left something out. I know it. All right, guys, time for me to fess up. You got me. We did leave something out. For time purposes and the 3 minutes plus we showed you in which JFK was pushing reluctant Democrats to go along with the tax cut he sorely needed, you know what? We omitted this.
Otherwise, if we don't get the tax cut, I would think that our prospects are much less certain. I think the Federal Reserve Board has indicated that. 1964 is going to be an uncertain time if we don't get the tax cut. I think to delay it to 1964 would be very unwise. I think our whole experience in the late 50s shows us how necessary and desirable it is. My guess is that if we can get the tax cut with the stimulus it will give to the economy, that we'll get our budget in balance quicker than we will if we don't have it.
That wasn't all. We also left out several press conferences, major speeches on this very same issue, including this Kennedy address in which he even utilizes Ross Perot-type charts long before Ross Perot was doing it.
This can be the most important step we could take to prevent another recession. That is the right kind of a tax cut, both for your family budget and the national budget, resulting from a permanent basic reform and reduction in our rate structure, a creative tax cut, creating more jobs and income, and eventually more revenue. And the right time for that kind of bill, it now appears, in the absence of an economic crisis today, and if the job is to be done in a responsible way, is January 1963. Such a bill will be presented to the Congress for action next year. It will include an across-the-board, top-to-bottom cut in both corporate and personal income taxes. It will include long-needed tax reforms that logic and equity demand. And it will date that cut in taxes to take effect as of the start of next year, January 1963. The billions of dollars this bill will place in the hands of the consumer and our businessmen will have both immediate and permanent benefits to our economy. Every dollar released from taxation that is spent or invested will help create a new job and a new salary. And these new jobs and new salaries can create other jobs and other salaries.
One step above all is essential: the enactment this year of a substantial reduction and revision in federal income taxes. For it is increasingly clear to those in government, business, and labor who are responsible for our economy's success that our obsolete tax system exerts too heavy a drag on private purchasing power, profits, and employment. Designed to check inflation in earlier years, it now checks growth instead. It discourages extra effort and risk. It distorts the use of resources. It invites recurrent recessions, depresses our federal revenues, and causes chronic budget deficits. Now, when the inflationary pressures of the war and the post-war years no longer threaten, and the dollar commands new respect, now when no military crisis strains our resources, now is the time to act. We cannot afford to be timid or slow, for this is the most urgent task confronting the Congress in 1963.
All right, I'm sure there are those of you who say, well, I must have edited that. And so in case you still don't believe me, you can go to our website. You can look for the JFK section, see the audio and transcripts from the September 9th interview, all those speeches for yourself, foxnews.com/yourworld. In just a rough cursory examination of this subject and John F. Kennedy, I found at least 4 speeches, 7 network interviews, and at least 5 press conferences in which the tax cut and its need was front and center. That was from 50 years ago, a Democratic president arguing for tax cuts. There are many of you who quite properly counter, well, taxes were a lot higher then. You are quite right. But you had a Democratic president arguing that the only way to goose the economy would be to lower them, not to add more spending, to give more money back to taxpayers, individual taxpayers, corporate taxpayers, all taxpayers. The President of the United States was showing no discretion as to who got what, just that everyone